Good evening, councillors, officers, members of the public to this meeting of the council. Please switch your mobile phones to silent. There are members of the public and press attending this meeting virtually. Can I ask those attending virtually to switch off your microphone and to avoid any disruption during the meeting? The meeting is being recorded and will be available in due course on the council's YouTube channel. To ensure those attending virtually can hear the proceedings and for the recording to capture the entire meeting, please ensure that you speak loudly and clearly. Please remember it is a formal meeting and therefore do not refer to councillors by their first name. When addressing council, please stand if you are able to do so. There is no fire alarm planned, therefore upon hearing the fire alarm, please leave the building by your nearest marked fire exit and assemble at the top of the top car park. Please be aware that content displayed on your iPad or laptop may be seen by others or members of the public attending the meeting. Therefore, please close down screens which are displaying confidential information during the public part of meetings. Thank you. Okay, so item 1, apologies for absence.
Yes, Chair, received apologies for absence from Councillor Biederman, Denton, Lovering and Orange, Chair.
Business brought forward or by or with consent of the chair, I have none. Item 3, declarations of interest. I'm going to move to our monitoring officer for this one.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I'm going to start again. Councillors will be aware that on the 22nd of September 2025, Governance Committee resolved that councillors Lever, Bell, Biederman, Youssef and Wilson, and separately Councillor Peter Lever as husband of Councillor Caroline Lever be granted a standing dispensation which allows them to take part in the deliberation and vote on local government reorganisation, which is item 6 on today's agenda, despite having another registrable interest as county councillors, also known as being dual or twin hatted even. As a member of both at both district and county level, I'm aware that local government reorganisation and its implications has been discussed and debated by members at multiple levels, including most recently by the County Council at its meeting on the 14th of November 2025. For the purposes of today's meeting, it is important that members are aware that the provision of a dispensation does not override the legal requirement on members to avoid bias or predetermination. I have reviewed the recording of the County Council meeting on the 14th of November and did not note any evidence of predetermination or bias by North Devon members, nor have I received evidence to suggest that any member here this evening, dual-hatted or otherwise, has predetermined their position. Just to say that this serves as a reminder that it is essential that all members approach this matter as with any other item before this council with an open mind and are ready to consider all relevant information and debate for voting. Thank you, Chair.
Before we move on, could I wish Councillor Thirsk a very happy birthday and remarkable sense of devotion to come to this meeting of all meetings to participate in her birthday.
Here, David.
Do I say something else?
Who was talking about
There's too many candles.
Okay, moving on to item 4, to agree the agenda between Part A and Part B, confidential restricted information. There is no Part B. Item 5, Northern Devon Place Story. I can pass over to Ken.
Thank you, Chair. There is no legally recognised definition of a place story, but its purpose is really to try and provide a narrative around an area, including its history, its communities, its culture and its ambitions. The document itself should be flexible so that it can be used in different ways and communicated through different channels. The Northern Devon Place story that's been developed was led by Northern Devon Futures Partnership, as they recognised that there was a need to try and raise the profile of Northern Devon, and the place story was recognised as a means of doing so. On the back of that, North Devon Council and Torridge District Council commissioned the work, and the final draft is the document that's presented to you tonight. North Devon Futures considered it last week, I think it was, at their board meeting, and they decided to wholeheartedly support it. Before you discuss it, I think it's probably worthwhile just explaining how I think we should be using it. And in the short term, we will use it to push the area with regional bodies such as the CCA, the Combined County Authority, Greater South West, etc. We will link it with the economic strategy that we've adopted, and we'll also link it with the Combined Authority's own growth plan, and also they are developing a Devon Place story, so we hope to influence that as well through this. We also need to use it to lobby government. One of the I haven't sent it to all members yet, but yesterday we received the results or the draft of the peer review report, and that highlights again the need for North Devon to start shouting about what's going on in North Devon. So we will use it to lobby government. We've seen just recently the Pride in Places funding that was announced by government a couple of months ago. Hardly anything for Devon outside Torbay and Plymouth, or nothing for Devon outside Torbay and Plymouth. And funnily enough, today in the budget, the Chancellor announced 30 million fund for Cornwall. That wasn't my Cornish nationalism coming through. And again, nothing for Devon or nothing for North Devon. We've got the ending of the Shared Prosperity Fund and REPFA in March, and no sign of any other funding to replace it at the moment. So we need to start lobbying with government. We need to start encouraging the CCA to start stepping into that space as well. And the place story provides us with a great hook to start that process. We've also used the place story, and we'll continue to use the place story to try and influence local government reorganisation, to make sure that the characteristics of North Devon come through as part of any proposals. It is going to the Torridge Full Council tonight, but it's here in front of you for adoption. There is a recommendation in the recommendations. I have asked for delegated power to make any minor changes, because if Torridge, for instance, make any small changes to it, then we need to adopt it as one document. But the gist of the document won't change. It is as it is in front of you. Recommendation is to adopt it, members.
Chair, I'll move the motion to adopt it.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Tops. Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. Moving on to item 6, local government reorganisation. Ken.
Thank you. Presentation to go through.
Yeah, patience.
Thank you, members. Just to provide some context, and then I have gone through this before with you, so forgive me. But as members recall, the devolution white paper, English devolution white paper, was issued in around December last year. And shortly thereafter, government wrote to all councils in 2-tier areas, inviting proposals to simplify local government structures. And by simplify, they meant remove the 2-tier system and replace it with a single-tier system. Between January and March, councils are working up their interim plan submissions, and across Devon there was a whole range of interim plans went in, around 10 being put forward. And then since that date, we've been working towards the final submissions, which need to be in with government by Friday, the 28th of November. As I've said on the slide there, each council is only allowed to submit one proposal. So technically, there could be 11, but there have been some groupings of authorities, so it's likely to be that there are 5 different plans submitted. Every council in Devon is having their full council and cabinet meetings this week, so that could change, but it's not likely to. I think it will be 5 plans that go in. And as I said there, each proposal has to consider the whole of the Devon system. So it's no good Exeter, for instance, putting in a proposal that just relates to Exeter. They have to deal with the whole of Devon as part of the proposal. The government criteria, which I've gone through before, these were set out in the letter, and the initial letter from government back in December, January time. They are, as written on the board, hopefully I don't need to read through them, but establishing a single tier of local government. They're keen to see efficiency and new authorities able to withstand financial shocks. They still want high quality, sustainable services. They want to see how local needs are reflected in proposals. They want to ensure that proposals support future devolution arrangements. And they want to see how neighbourhoods are empowered as part of those proposals. So those are the 6 main criteria. As well as that, they issued some further guidance, which sort of went into it in a bit more detail in the criteria. They talked about basing proposals on sensible economic areas, making sure that there's balance across the proposals, so that one authority area, new authority areas, are disadvantaged or advantaged over another. They talked about sensible geographies to help increase housing supply. They want to see evidence of cost savings. And then the sort of highly publicised criteria was around the population. As part of the guidance, government set the limit on, or the minimum limit as 500,000. But as we've discussed before, government subsequently said that they would accept proposals. They would look at proposals with less than 500,000 if there was justification for doing so. And informally, a figure of about 300 to 350 was mentioned. They would want to see efficiencies identified. They want proposals to reflect local identity and culture. And they also want to see sensible population size ratios. So they want to see balance between the different unitary models that are coming forward. And also district boundaries to be used as building blocks. And again, government said that they would be happy to look at boundary changes if there was justification for doing so. So that's the guidance and the criteria we've been looking at. Very quickly, the timetable. So as I mentioned, draft proposal by the 21st of March, which we complied with, but then informal discussions with MHCLG following that, resulting in the full proposals by Friday. There will be a public consultation on any proposals that government feel are legally compliant, which should start in January or February next year. That will be led by government, but the expectation is that probably about 2 weeks after Friday, we should get a letter from government setting out the next steps and asking us for information such as key partners to consult with, etc. So the process will start pretty much straight away after the 28th of November, but the formal consultation is likely to start in January or February. The decisions should be taken between June and August next year. There's a lot of speculation following the County Councils Network conference that there may be a delay of a year. There's been nothing coming from government that would suggest that at all. So, for those hoping that it might be delayed, I'm not sure that's going to be the case. But if there is going to be a delay, then we won't find out about it until the time the decisions are taken, I don't think. But up there about the moratorium, part of the legal process in going over to a new authority, government will issue an order which effectively starts to put the legal mechanism in place for the new authority to be created. And at the same time as doing that, they will issue a moratorium, which will require existing authorities not to take any big decisions, and they'll set the criteria for that at the time, but not to take any big decisions without reference to the new shadow authority that's been set up or without reference to MHCOG. So that will limit the amount that we can spend on particular projects, big contracts that we might want to enter into, that sort of thing. And the elections to the shadow authority will be in May 27, same time as the district elections, unless they're postponed for some reason, with vesting day being May 28. So the shadow authority will be in being for a year. And during that year, as it goes on towards vesting day, we're gaining more and more importance. So there is a lot of work. If you members recall, if members attended the informal workshop that we had with the leader from Westmoreland Furnace Council, which was one of the new authorities created in Cumbria, he outlined the sort of work that's involved between now and vesting day, and it's a huge amount of work that is involved, and which will take up a lot of resource. So coming on to the 451 proposal that's in front of you, it's entitled Reimagining Devon, and I just want to go through a few points regarding the proposal. Obviously, the full document is in front of you, and hopefully you've had a chance to read it and the executive summary. But the first point to mention is that there has been quite a comprehensive options appraisal as part of the process. And pages 15 and 16 really set this out. Sorry, pages 15 and 16, the exact summary set out the different options that have been considered. I'm not going to go through each one now, it's there in front of you. But it's just to point out that the analysis has been quantitative and qualitative. So the quantitative analysis included looking at population size, financial resilience, the appropriateness of the geography, and the qualitative assessment was looking at community identity and alignment with other boundaries such as NHS, etc. Each option was scored and balanced, with 3 options being dismissed pretty much straight away as being poor performing, and then some strategic filters were added and applied, which left 3 options. There was then further analysis, which then left the 451 option as the strongest and most balanced. And just very briefly going through some of the criteria and just highlighting how the proposal sets out compliance with those criteria. The first criteria was around creating a single tier of local government. And then there were sub-criteria around sensible economic areas, etc. The proposal, it does towards sensible economic areas. They are balanced. It is very challenging in Devon, as we all know, because of the geography of Devon and because we've already got existing unitaries in Plymouth and Tor Bay. So, you know, is there a perfect solution for Devon? I don't know. But the proposal being put forward does put forward balanced economic areas. The travel to work areas are reflected as much as possible. And the proposal builds on the existing partnerships and relationships and reflects local identity as much as possible as well. The existing partnership and relationships, you'll be aware, for instance, with North Devon, we've got shared services with Torridge, we've got shared strategies with Torridge, we've also got shared services with Mid Devon. You've got West Devon and South Hams in the south, who obviously have a very strong tie together with a shared staffing structure. You've got shared IT services in the south of Devon as well. So it builds on all of that. Criteria is around efficiency and capacity. This is about creating unitaries that are big enough to withstand financial shocks. So just to highlight that the population levels within the 3 unitary model range from 268, which is Plymouth. You've got 428,000, which is the 4, if you like, the Southern Devon unitary, and then 547,000, which is the 5, the Northern unitary. And the view is taken that that's large enough to survive, but small enough to be local. And whilst it might not be as small as some of us would hope, we do have to bear in mind the government guidance and the criteria that's been applied. As I said before, it builds on existing partnerships, and purely from an economic point of view, which I'll come on to in a minute, delivers around 77 million in annual savings, but we're going to a little more detail about that in a second. It also builds on existing shared services, as I mentioned, and the transition costs, which we'll come on to in a second. The payback is 2 years and 9 months on the base model. Criteria 3.
Ken, can you just clarify that? This government, we should believe those figures?
Can we have debate during the time for debate, please? Not and let Ken
Seems
finish.
to be sliding, that's all I'm saying.
We'll come on to the financial bit in a second anyway, with a bit more detail. And then at the end, happy to obviously answer any questions. Criteria 3 was about making sure there's high quality sustainable services. And as I said before, this proposal builds on the existing shared services arrangements that we have in place in the north of the county and also in the south of the county. It builds on good practice on integration. So although Torbay are submitting their own proposal, they have been part of this process in developing the 451 model. And there's significant learnings to be taken from Torbay around how they've integrated health with social services and provided sort of integrated family hubs. Really good models that we can take forward as part of this. Services should be delivered closely to the communities, and our view is that the 451 does do that, and I'll come on to look at that in a bit more detail in a second. And there is the opportunity to transform services by integration, co-location, and by modernisation. We see this every day as officers. We've got a planning team, for instance, the county council have a highways team and transport team, and we see blockages between those two teams every day. We see it right across the board, even in the services, for instance, with the number of people ringing our number asking for county council services. And if you try and put them through to that number, if you can get through, and I'm not criticising the county, but if you can get through, then it's a blockage for that customer. So integrating those services gives us a real opportunity, and that's the same whatever model is chosen. I appreciate that. The 3 unitary model that we're proposing does enable an easier transition, and that's simply because the key staff are already in place. The 3 unitaries that are in place at the moment, or county council and the 2 unitaries, sorry, already have directors of children's services, etc. What we're looking at here is sort of realigning the boundaries rather than creating new unitaries. The proposal itself, you'll see, goes into a bit more detail about a number of key services and goes on to explain how the 451 proposal will look to address some of the challenges as part of those services. The criteria 4 is about working together, meeting local needs. A really important point that this model has been developed in collaboration with 8 councils. So you've got the 7 district councils and Torbay, and as I said, Torbay are now developing their own model, but right up until a couple of weeks ago, they have been part of this 451 process, and their experience has been invaluable. There has been an extensive engagement exercise. You'll have seen the publicity that went out as part of the consultation, but we've done our own consultation individually and also collectively across the districts. We've had sessions with parish councils, with partners, with businesses, with health services, etc. And all of that engagement has fed into the design of the model. One of the key criteria, or one of the key aspects of the 451 model is the co-design of neighbourhood area committees and local area partnerships. Our view as districts is that we shouldn't be specifying as part of this proposal how many neighbourhood committees there will be, for instance, or where those neighbourhood committees will be. The principle of the proposal is that those neighbourhood committees and those neighbourhood arrangements are designed in combination with the neighbourhoods. So what we might think is appropriate, the neighbourhood might not think it's appropriate. They might think a better geography could be achieved elsewhere. So The idea behind this is to set in motion the principles and set out the principles, but to work with those neighbourhoods to actually design what the area committees or neighbourhood committees will look like, the geography, who will be involved, and also the powers given to them. But the principles are around devolving proper decision-making powers to those neighbourhood committees with a strong partnership approach. Supporting devolution, which was the criteria 5. The view taken is that the 451 model does provide that balanced platform for representation on devolved bodies. At the moment, the devolved authority is the county combined authority, which, as its name suggests, just covers Devon County and Torbay areas. It doesn't cover Plymouth at the moment. Our view is that that balance of new unitary authorities provides that platform for extending those devolution arrangements. And there's no doubt about it that further devolution is the prize that we all want. We're seeing that in the budget. Lots of the funds are now being devolved to mayoral authorities. Lots of the powers are being devolved to mayoral authorities. There's talk of a tourism tax, for instance, or tourism levy. That's only going to mayoral authorities. So that's obviously where we need to be if we want those powers, if we want that funding. And so after LGR has settled down, I think collectively as districts, we should be working with the county, working with the other unitaries to push government to actually move forward on that those devolution arrangements. Stronger community engagement was the last criteria. And as I mentioned, principle of our model is that the neighbourhood arrangements are designed with the neighbourhoods, not foisted upon them. The principles are around decision making being at the local level. That's critical to this. And the point there is about locally led partnerships, such as One Ilfracombe, will be scaled up. One of the features of the proposal, if you look at the full document, is that there are lots of case studies drawn from the district's experience. And the idea is, in putting those case studies forward, is that those case studies can be scaled up across the new authorities. And you'll see quite a few of those case studies come from North Devon. So we've got one in there for the Poverty Truth Commission, North Devon Futures, One Ilfracombe, Torridge Place Board, Bideford Regeneration Board, etc. They're all in there. So just quickly looking at some of the financial case. It's important, first of all, to stress that this is based on existing budgets and demand. And there are assumptions that have been made as part of this. Now, every authority or every proposal is going to be based on assumptions. Unfortunately, we don't know what the funding landscape is going to look like in a few years' time when this is implemented, nor do we know what demand is going to be in a few years' time when this is implemented. So we can only base it on what we know now, and then the assumptions as to what the future might hold. And section 5 of the document goes into that in a bit more detail. First point there is about it being verified by section 151s. Not only has it been verified by the section 151s from those 8 authorities, we've also engaged KPMG, leading consultants, who've got vast experience of local government reorganisation across the country. So they led the Cumbria model, for instance, and other models as well. They've also gone through the finances, but we've also engaged other external local government financial experts, Pixel, who have also looked at the finances and have verified it. So there is some strength to the assumptions that we're making and to the figures that we're putting forward. The base case should show savings of 77 million per annum, but those savings are being modelled for year 6 onwards. You'll see the document talks about a stretch case, and that's where further investment is required into integrating services, etc. But if that was chosen by the new authority, then the savings could be higher than that 77 million, and we're looking at potentially 125 million per annum. As I said earlier, the break even is 2 years, 9 months. If you go for the stretch case, it's slightly longer. But the cumulative net benefits, the range would be between 508 million and 805 million over those 10 years. There are implementation costs, and we're estimating those implementation costs to be £74 million over 5 years, which is significant, but whatever model is chosen, there will be implementation costs. And as I said, with the 3 unitary model, some of those implementation costs are reduced because we've already got those officers in play. So the base case savings are 3.5% of the current net revenue expenditure across Devon. And when you look at the other proposals that are going in, that is the highest savings figure that's been assumed. Just wanted to touch on future council members as well. I think I drew as members' attention to this when the white paper was issued. The white paper makes it absolutely clear that they want to see less councillors. Sorry about that, but that's what the white paper says. There are currently 481 councillors across Devon, and the Boundary Commission guidance, which we are required to follow, suggests there should be a maximum of 100 councillors per authority. The proposal set out in the 451 is that there be 234 councillors in total, and that's set out on page 232. And the ratio, quite understandably, is increased. And I know members have concerns about this, but that's why I say, that's why the white paper requiring us to have less councillors and also repeated the Boundary Commission requirements. So the proposal for Northern Devon and Exeter Unitary is that the ratio on average would be just short of 1 to 4,500 electorate. And I say it's on average. There are no warding patterns or anything like that that have been set out. That would be down to the Boundary Commission at the end of the day. And there is recognition within the document that there would need to be a split and a difference between urban areas and rural areas. But on average, across the whole of that unitary area, you're looking at 1 to 4,500. And the current ratio for North Devon is 1 to 1,900. In terms of the numbers of councillors for the North Devon area, that would equate to 18 councillors for the current North Devon boundaries. I think it was 12 for Torridge. Exeter was, and I can't remember the other figures now, but collectively in total that looks at 94 councillors for that Northern Devon area. I just want to touch on 451 plus, it's called. It might get a little bit complicated. So, as I said at the outset, councils are required to submit their proposals to the existing district boundaries as the basis for it. So what you'll see, and what's been publicised, is Exeter and Plymouth want to expand their boundaries. And there's been lots of publicity around their proposals going forward that request that expansion in boundaries. They will be submitted base cases based on existing boundaries as well. So they will submit a base case and then submit a preferred option, which is the expansion. So their base case will be based on their existing boundaries. And that's exactly the same here. So the 451 is based on all of the existing boundaries. There's no boundary changes, but there is recognition that that does create anomalies. So for instance, where the boundary sits at the moment between the 4 and the 5, I think there's about 200 yards of Dartmoor National Park in the north unitary. And so it would be a little bit daft for Dartmoor National Park to deal with 2 unitaries. And so the suggestion is, for instance, that if government are happy going ahead with this, that boundary be changed so that the 451 boundary is encompassing, the 4 boundaries encompassing the whole of Dartmoor National Park. And similarly, if you look at Plymouth, there is an urban fringe to Plymouth around Woolwell, etc., the north-eastern part of Plymouth, which really does associate itself with Plymouth. And so the suggestion would be to as part of the 451 to expand that boundary slightly, and it takes in, I think, a proportion of 3 or 4 parishes just that side of Plymouth. Just quickly touching on the other options that we think are coming forward. So you've got Torbay, and I haven't gone into detail about their finances or anything like that. I've just put up the basis of their geographies and the population. So Torbay are putting forward a proposal which has an expanded Plymouth and expanded Exeter, Torbay on existing boundaries, and then a rural Devon coast and countryside authority, which would look like that. I'm sure if you can see that. It's not very clear, is it? So hopefully the colours show you geographically. Plymouth and Exeter. I'm not sure yet whether Exeter are submitting a separate proposal to Plymouth. I think Plymouth resolved the other night to submit jointly with Exeter, but we'll see. But they're both going for the same geography, which is an expanded Plymouth, an expanded Exeter, expanded Torbay, and then a Devon Coast and Countryside Authority wrapping up the rest of Devon, which would look like that. So you can see the extent of Plymouth's preferred expansion, which we'll come on to in a second. Then you've got Devon County Council, which was approved by their full council and cabinet last week. So you've got Plymouth on existing boundaries, Torbay on the existing boundaries, and then the rest of Devon as one unitary, which would look like that. And then you've got the 451. There's a map of the 451 just to remind you what we've got here. So Plymouth on existing boundaries, then the 4 based on South Hams, Torbay, Teignbridge and West Devon, and the 5 based on Torridge, North Devon, East Devon, Mid Devon and Exeter. So just want to touch very briefly on the recommendations before we go into debate. So the recommendations that are in front of you are to endorse the of the Reimagining Devon case for change as our response to the invitation to submit final proposals. To support the 451 plus option I outlined earlier, which is the slight expansion to Plymouth and also the slight tinkering around with the boundaries to accommodate Dartmoor. That's under 2.2. And then under 2.3, I'm asking for delegated power in consultation with the leader to make minor changes to the case for change. And that is simply because that case for change is going through the 7 district councils at the moment. And so if there are any changes that we need to incorporate that might be coming through from the other districts, then we can look at that and perhaps incorporate it. But they will be minor changes. It shouldn't be changing the gist of that proposal at all. And then the recommendation that does need some explanation is 2.3.2. You'd recall that I referred to Plymouth's preferred expansion, which is to take in 13 parishes around Plymouth from the South Hams area. There is it's a bit of a strategic call, I guess, but there is some thought that an expanded Plymouth may find favour with government. And so it would be a shame for a proposal that is approved tonight to be thrown out because it doesn't have an expanded Plymouth within it. And so we have discussed with MHCLG how we might deal with that. And they're quite happy for the covering letter that goes in from us to suggest that if government were minded to, we would be happy with that expansion of Plymouth to be incorporated within the 451. Not all of the districts will approve that. We know, for instance, South Hams will be against it, but not all of the districts have to approve that. If it's in the covering letter and is submitted to government as a final proposal or as part of a final proposal, then they can take it into account when looking at their decision. And so the recommendation 2.3.2 is to submit the covering letter, including wording to give effect to that. And that's the recommendations, Chair. Happy to take any questions.
So councillor Clayton, can I start with you?
Can I
please?
move the motion, first of all? I mean, fortunately, well, Ken's been very comprehensive in his coverage there, and very fair, I think, as well. I just want to sort of move the main motion, and before I do that, I think it's worth remembering why we are here tonight. And that because, I'll take out some of this stuff because Ken's already mentioned it. It was a new Labour government last year, but it decided it wanted uniformity across local government in the form of a unitary authority. And I know some members here reservations about that and wanted to continue with the present model of district provision. And I can understand that. Personally, I'm in favour of unitaries. One of the most frustrating aspects of going knocking on doors is you knock on someone's door and they want to talk to you as a district councillor about social care, about education, about the roads. And we have to say, well, that's not our responsibility. We can take it up for you. It's not our responsibility. That's the county. Now, having them all under one single umbrella in one unitary is going to be beneficial to the people. They don't care whose responsibility it is. They want their roads fixed. They want their parents looked after in social care properly, and that is the council. And under a unitary authority, there'll be no hiding place. It's the council, and that to me is a good thing. Unitaries, I think, are a good thing. The debate, therefore, about whether we should have a unitary or not is finished. There's going to be no district councils. In a very short period of time, there will be no county councils either. They will all be under, in Devon, the unitary system of government. Which brings us on to tonight's meeting, because we have to decide what shape of unitary.
Sorry, excuse me, councillor Jones, could you please not chat at the back because it's very off-putting.
It is a bit off-putting when people are talking.
I'm actually quite rude.
We'll all be under a new.
Not letting any of us do it would be rude.
We'll all be under a new unitary council. That's why we're here tonight. Choose an option. I feel that the best fit for the whole of Devon, and we're going to get out of the mindset of North Devon, Torridge, our district councils, get out of that mindset and look for the whole of Devon, what would be the best fit for that. And I think the best model would be the 145 model. In a different life, as you know, I've told a few people, I was a history and politics teacher. And believe it or not, I used to get quite a lot of enjoyment out of teaching the students in my A-level politics groups about different electoral systems. First past the polls, additional vote system, single member system, additional member system. I won't bore you with the detail. And why am I saying that is because those countries that had to look for a new, perhaps, voting system, are a bit like we today. We have to look for a new system of a new model, if you like, because they all have, I was telling students, all these different systems of voting have their own distinct advantages and disadvantages. And all the systems that we put forward, we mentioned about the Devon County one, the Rochester one, there is the Plymouth one, the Torbay one. They've all got their advantages and disadvantages. I'm not going to stand here tonight and denigrate any of those. To be honest, I think the maps showed the problems with them more than I could say anyway. And what I want to do is say, look, this is what's before us tonight. It's the 145. I do think it's the best model. Miss that bit out. As a district council, we've met regularly as chief executives and leaders with the 6 other districts and formulated what has become known as the 451. The one being Plymouth, obviously, which is already a unitary. The 4, South Hams, Teignbridge, Torbay and West Devon. And the 5 being East Devon, Mid Devon, Torridge, Exeter, and of course, North Devon. And we've referred to this as reimagining Devon. This is what I was saying before, getting out of the mindset of the district council, the county council, the county councillor as well. And look to the future as far as the shape of this new unitary is concerned. It's a plan, this model that works for all of Devon. It's a plan that acknowledges the strengths, the challenges, the aspirations across the whole of the county. It's a plan that ensures parity between three areas, three unitaries, with a similar share of services and resources, ensuring the best outcomes for every person in Devon, and that's surely what we're after. The 451 model will create savings and efficiencies. It will reduce duplication of work and deliver better services to people across Devon. It's fully costed, as Ken has referred to, with a robust financial plan that will ensure Devon Council taxpayers with good value for money. The modelling for this, as Ken's already referred, has been undertaken by independent consultants, supported by the S15 officers from all the collaborating councillors. So thanks to John for that. At this stage, a massive thank you to Sarah and to Nina, because I know that they've put in an incredible amount of work as part of the work that's been going on across all the district councils. So thank you to those. I do appreciate that some members, and this is the elephant in the room really, have wanted a more northern based unitary. Again, I can understand that. But it comes down to size and who would participate when we were starting to ask these questions. Norwich, perhaps our closest neighbours from a northern perspective, favoured the 451 and didn't want to spend any extra money on a northern option, as it was called. The same with Mid Devon, West Devon, East Devon. We need to demonstrate unity on this, because one of the things that the government wants to see is options put forward that have the support from as many people and as many authorities as possible collectively. It was no use going on our own. It wouldn't have been looked at. It wouldn't have been entertained. So back to the 451. We have suggested that the 5 should be called Northern Devon and Exeter. This will be up to the new unitary if we get the go-ahead. But the new unitary, we think, should be called Northern Devon and Exeter. It's a good idea. It's one that will be able to promote the distinctive geographic areas, while still able to respond efficiently to the unique nature of local communities. For those not keen to lose any northern identity, we have everything to play for, in my opinion, in the new unitary. Together with Torridge, and this is something that's not often reported in all the talk about different unitaries, together with Torridge, we would have more councillors in the new unitary than those, for example, from Exeter. It is certainly not a done deal that all services should be administered from Exeter. We should be shouting from the rooftops of the new unitary buildings that Barnstaple, Bideford, other northern areas should become hubs administratively and economically for the new unitary. We've just passed tonight the Northern Devon places. The problem, Councillor Bushy?
Well, it just seems you're a bit predetermined with everything that you're saying, and I was asking the leader of our group whether I'd seek reassurances from the monitoring officer.
Please.
Right, could we just let Councillor Clayton finish and get a seconder, and then we can go to debate?
It is very, I think you put it well, very well.
Thank you.
Thank you. The fantastic Northern Devon place story. And that provides us with a template for shouting from those rooftops and saying, look, let's do something for Northern Devon. Let's make it a focus for the new hub. Let's not get downhearted about this. Let's sort of say this is something that we can look forward to. We can get a lot out of. I'm pretty pleased that our local MP, Ian Roon, has come out strongly in favour of the 451 model. Spoke to him last week. He recently argued this option works to preserve the distinct character of different parts of Devon, such as North Devon.
Can you stop talking, please? We're trying to listen. Thank you.
It ensures councils are tied to the clear geographic areas I've talked about, while still able to respond effectively to the needs of unique local communities. The independent consultant KPMG that Ken referred to looked in great detail at all the different options that were being put forward, which in the main book at pages 76 to 77. And they concluded that the 451 model emerged as the strongest and the most balanced solution. They said this model reflects natural communities, travel to work areas, and strategic infrastructure corridors. It balances population, economic output, service demand, while preserving local identity. In short, they said it provides the best option for Devon. Madam Chair, members, reimagining Devon, the 451 model has the support of 7 of the district councils in Devon. 7 that represent together 97% of Devon's land area. That's something the government will look at and realise this is something to be reckoned with and hopefully will support. It is the best option, and I wholeheartedly propose a motion that this be the preferred option coming from North Devon Council.
Thank you, Councillor Clayton. Councillor Warden.
Yes, could I have clarification of what's been moved? Are you actually moving, councillor Clayton, all the recommendations 2.1 to 2.3.2, which includes the plus option and the other minor amendments that we were talking about?
Well, of course, that will be subject to debate now and whether, first of all, the council wants to go for the 451 model, and if so, do they want to go for the 451 as it is or the 451 plus? So I move the motion as a whole, but we should look, there might be amendments. I don't know what we did ask for any possible amendments, but none have come so forward so far. There might well be. So if we deal with that as a whole, yes, but then people might want to advocate the 451 plus of it.
That's fine.
That makes sense.
Yes.
We discussed that yesterday morning, and I think.
Okay, so we have a mover and seconder, so we can move into debate.
It's nice of you to turn up.
Yeah, Councillor Warden has just seconded.
Funny.
So Councillor Levi.
Reserve until later.
Okay. Councillor, Councillor Prowse, sorry.
Chair, I'd like to move an amendment, and it's an amendment that's probably, is it an amendment or actually an addition? Because my amendment is picking up some points that I think are important. And the reason I want to move this amendment is not a big debate about the options initially, but it's about what is important, I think, to go to government. And I think that what I'm suggesting should go in the letter. And I've shared a copy of this with Ken. It's about, because I'm a realist and I think politics will play a big part of this. What is important is to actually lay down some markers about what the unitary should do for North Devon. Forget the boundaries for a moment, but what it should do for North Devon. So the amendment, I don't want to read the whole thing. Well, I hope to really.
You haven't seen it. This council urges government to adopt a unitary model for local government in Devon that continues to promote the unique identity, culture and community of Northern Devon. In discussions and negotiations over the final form of unity local government, North Devon Council will seek guarantees that promote the continued distinctiveness of our region in particular. And there's 4 bullet points, if you bear with me, Chair. The first one, recognising the separate Northern Devon economy by an early commitment to endorsing and promoting the North Devon Torridge economic strategy underpinned by the 5 core clusters identified. Second point, taking forward a local plan for Northern Devon that focuses on the strong sense of belonging, highlights the central role of the biosphere, the importance of the Barnstable-Bideford corridor to providing future growth, and ensures the continuing provision of the current broad range of retail and cultural opportunities in Northern Devon. And an endorsement of a place story, because I think that was a fantastic document. And really, I think it could have been the beginning of a bit of a bid, but that's another debate. That symbolises what makes North Devon special in its own economy, housing market and housing needs, supporting an emphasis on the importance of the sub-regional role of Greater Barnstable, which currently offers a wide range
of professional careers and encourages higher skills training to combat the exodus of the young. The commitment to keep decision-making close to people, I think this is important because it's still very nebulous in my mind, through the implementation of an area neighbourhood structure that is meaningful and not merely consultative. And I think that is really key. And securing a continued substantive presence in Barnstaple for the delivery of services to the public and local members, seeking the maximum number of elected councils to replace the existing 50 here in North Devon with wards that represent real communities. Chair, I know the leader mentioned some of these issues in his speech, and they are within the document. What worries me is that the minister could be faced with a number of documents spread across the table, but a letter that actually puts the North Devon case, as opposed to being just one of other districts in a joint bid. I think it's important to highlight those issues. So I'd hope that we could agree that that would be an addition to the recommendation to go into the letter, so that it's quite clear that our position is safeguarding the things that are really important for the future North Devon in any new unitary, Chair.
Can I just bring back Councillor Clayton?
Just a quick clarification, Malcolm. I don't see anything wrong with what you've said there. But are you saying it to be part of?
Stand up, please.
Are you saying it as part of an additional, or to be an additional letter to the?
Within the letter, I think, yeah.
The cover letter. So it's accepting the 145 model or 145 plus, and then the letter as well.
No, it's not accepting the 145 because that debate is a different one, Chair. What I'm asking is that we agree that goes in the letter, because when the government come to making their decision, the 145 may have already been discounted, but we need to have these as some key principles of whatever model the government take forward. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Sorry, I'm just asking, is this the same letter that mentions the expansion of Plymouth borders? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
As I understand it, the amendment being put forward is to add to 2.3, I believe, which says that delegated power be given to the chief executive to make the minor changes, etc., but also to submit a covering letter accompanying the case for change to government, including the wording to give effect to the suggestion in 4.19, which is the expansion of Plymouth. And then I guess it would read and then the wording that has been put forward by Councillor Price. If that's correct, then what I would say is that would go directly to government. Government have said that they will be looking at the covering letters as part of the submission. But it also gives us a framework to take into discussions with the Shadow Authority in whatever form the Shadow Authority is set up, whatever proposals are approved by government, because that's a framework to go into that Shadow Authority pushing for the issues affecting North Devon. So it's not just about influencing the decision by government, it's also about influencing how that Shadow Authority is set up, because you have to understand, members, that once that new authority is set up, it's up to that new authority. So we do need to be in there fighting our corner in the Shadow Authority so that its constitution reflects the issues that we're talking about. And I think that's just as important as the actual, where a line is drawn on a map. It's important that is recognised by members. And I can assure you that we as officers recognise that, and that's why we're trying to get officers in a position where they're happy and willing to take on those positions in the Shadow Authority or in the new authority, so that the culture of North Devon Council is sort of spread into that new authority.
Thank you. I have several people wanting to speak. I have got you, Councillor Crabb, so thank you. So can I have Councillor Petrinos first, please?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I'd like to second Councillor Crow's because even though I've got huge reservations about the whole point of the whole exercise, which is, as everybody will know, just taking vast amounts of officer time that would otherwise be used doing useful things, and is going to end up at best at halving it the representation that people that voted us in will get. Nevertheless, we need to make the best of a bad job, and the best we can try and do is try and emphasise the points that are most important to us, as is in the amendment.
Thank you. Councillor Jones.
Can I request a recorded vote on all elements of the vote as we move forward?
We have 10 members. don't we?
Yeah. Do I have,
It's a majority.
we need a majority, so can I take, can I have a seconder for a recorded vote, please? Councillor Bushell. All those in favour?
Agreed, yeah.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, Chair.
All those against? Any abstentions? Okay, that's carried, so it will be a recorded vote. Thank you. Councillors, could you just down here, please? Councillor Ricky Knight, please.
Table. Thank you, Chair. I was going to second, but I've heard it, but I just think this is a benign amendment. It's a really well worded amendment, which I'm speaking to. I think it fits perfectly into recommendation 2.3. I love the idea of this submission, the letter, I mean, allowing the North Devon place story to leapfrog into the very front of that, as opposed to being lost in a sense in the complex and very wordy submission 541 plus. So I'm speaking in favour of the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Crabb.
Thank you, Chair. In fairness, quite a well worded letter. Now, I've got reservations about 451. And obviously, when there was a different time at County Hall, we had presentations on what the county proposal was, and there were compelling arguments for that proposal. However, I take Malcolm's point that whatever proposal goes forward, this letter may well be written. The main thing that concerns me about all these proposals, though, in our proposal, we sort of fluffily describe some bits and pieces. In County's proposal, they proposed a neighbourhood area committee, which is similar to the size of this council. Now, I think that if you are highlighting things for government, and this would be really important for me because I've seen it work up our neck of the woods, is to make these neighbourhood area committees hyper-local. And if there's some way of capturing that within it, I'm not saying one Ilfracombe probably is genuinely too small, but to me, it seems that Braunton, Putsborough, Georgeham, Woolacombe, and I'm sorry for in one of those you disagree, but sort of they probably share some views and some vision. That to me would be quite sensible. Ilfracombe, Carmarthen perhaps, Linton and South Molton, or Linton and Exmoor National Park. It's too big to have half of North Devon as one neighbourhood area committee. So if Malcolm can put some words in that to capture some of that hyper-localism, I'd happily vote for that. Thanks for happening there.
Just to correct Councillor Crabb, in Braunton, we love people from Ilfracombe. They drive through our village at great speed with great regularity. For the time being. Can I just briefly check with the legal officer? Would you like me to? I'm afraid I was enjoying a very good meal this evening. I missed the beginning of the meeting. Would you like me to give the whole declaration that you've proposed, or would you like it to be taken as read?
No, that's fine, Chair. No, yeah.
Thank you very much. So not only am I agreeing with Councillor Crabb, but also I'm agreeing with Councillor Prowse. But I would, this is a point of clarity, nothing else. Of course, Councillor Prowse has referred to North Devon and Northern Devon. When we're looking at the culture, I think we need to be clear that I think Councillor Prowse is referring to Northern Devon, and that's how we'd want this to be reflected in a letter. Our friends in Corridge don't see themselves as being, I believe they see themselves as being part of the same culture as we are, and I think we would want to reflect that. But thank you.
Ken, can I ask you to feedback on?
Yeah, it was just that point by Councillor Crabb. I was struggling to find. I was trying to find it, but I'm pretty sure that where we talk about neighbourhood committees in the proposal, I think One Ilfracombe is the case study that we use. Now, it may not be that it's as hyper-local as that, but the whole point about the neighbourhood committees in this proposal is that we are not defining where they should be at the moment. We will work with the neighbourhoods and the communities to define where they should be. So it may well be that a hyper-local neighbourhood committee is appropriate for a particular area, but in another area it should be a wider geography. We're not setting that this proposal. We're setting the principles that there will be neighbourhood committees and that we will work with the communities to design them and also to ensure that they have the powers that those neighbourhoods want. That's the difference between this proposal and I would suggest other proposals that are going in.
Can I just very quickly come back on that? I don't want to be here all night, obviously, but can we not just capture the fact that it should be aspirational, that it should be local where possible or where appropriate? 225, I think, page.
It's actually in the document.
I read it, it's 225, isn't it?
Yeah, Penny is right. It's not up for us to decide the chair.
It's not by one, is it?
It's up to us to say, yes, neighbourhood committees would be an ideal thing to have and an aid to democracy under a new unitary. But there is the new unitary who will have to decide the makeup and the shape and where these neighbourhood committees are going to be. And I think that's what we're there, to be honest. We can put in something.
Malcolm is saying he wants it aspirational, that Barnstable to centre of Northern Devon. That's fine. Well, surely it's also aspirational that there's a hyper-local authority.
Yeah.
We'll not talk over one another. It does make it very difficult to actually keep up with the thread of what's
Before we
coming.
move on to further, I still want some clarification, actually. We've got the recommendations there, 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.31, 2.2. Is Councillor Prowse saying to add a further amendment, so to vote for his amendment, which is going to be the form of a covering letter. So then it goes to a substantive, which is all of that. So we'll be voting for 451 plus the letter. Is that correct?
Chairman, I'm proposing an amendment, which is essentially an addition to the recommendation, and we vote on that before we do the establishment.
Yeah.
I've still got more people who want to speak.
Yeah, just to clarify again, as I understand it, the recommendations will be as written on the paperwork, but with an additional recommendation that the letter that goes to government incorporates the word input forward by Councillor Prowse.
Really hard to hear.
Apologies. As I understand it, the amendment coming forward is for the recommendations as written on the paperwork, but with an addition that the covering letter that goes to government includes the wording that Councillor Prowse has put forward. Is that correct?
I think before we vote on that, Councillor Prowse, I don't think there's anything problem, but if you could just reread it again for everybody's benefit, when debates go on, just so we're all absolutely clear what's in there.
Councillor Maskell, thank you for waiting patiently.
Got one to say.
So listen, I think you've all worked extremely hard and I think you've come up with a really sound proposal and I really appreciate all the work that's gone into it. I suppose I started this journey on the county council from a completely different angle and I still really struggle to get my head around splitting Devon up, especially when it comes to our most vulnerable, from those that require adult social care and those that require children's services. And I really struggle with the idea of those services being spliced up. So for that reason alone, I find it hard to support any splitting up of Devon, and that's not a reflection on any of the work that's been done here. The things that I'm passionate about, I can't imagine being reimagined. But I do think that Councillor Prowse has made a really valid point. I think we still need to support Northern Devon. Whatever happens, we need our identity to remain strong. So thank you.
Councillor Warden.
Thank you. It was really to do with the actual amendment as such, because I believe that the actual amendment is already covered in 2.3.2. It's simply an addition to give us some more information to go in the letter. So I'm not sure that it ought to be an amendment in that sense, or as an extra point. I think it should be as an addition to 2.3.2. Sorry, so I'm being very technical.
You're right, David, that's what I was trying to say badly myself.
Yeah, it actually is already covered, except that this is giving us specific information to put in the letter.
Yeah. And just to clarify again, the recommendations in the paperwork which have been moved and seconded did not include the wording put forward by Councillor Price. So in that sense, it is an amendment. Now it could be with the agreement of the mover and seconder, the motion.
Yeah.
It could be taken on board as part of that, or it can be voted on as part of an amendment. And if the vote is successful, then that goes forward as a substantive motion. But it's the paperwork plus that extra wording.
Can I just, by way of explanation, just listening to Councillor Prumaskell, and some of us preferred another option. So, but what I'm trying to say is that whatever comes out the other end, these are things that we can unite around. That's why I wanted to move it as an amendment, because some people may not support the 145. But it is important that we are unanimous, I would hope we would be, in supporting these principles to go in the letter. Because later on, next March, they could, our option could be out, or the North Devon option could be out the window. And we could be faced with a extra larger Plymouth. And that's a realism that I think I would like tonight to vote for a 4-unitary option. That's what I would like to vote for tonight, but it's not on the table. We decided not to put any money into it or do any more work on it. So we're ending up with one option only. And I've heard this debate. My wife thinks I'm a bit sad watching YouTube from other councils. I watched Devon County last week and all called blimey. Well, I don't know what the view of most of the county councils like that. And Timbridge, they ended up, I think 14 out of 49 members voted for it, 9 against and 17 abstained at their full council meeting. So there's not unanimity. And all I'm just saying is that the interests of North Devon are bigger than the boundaries and bigger. We don't want to fall out about these things. And whatever comes out from the government in March, if it does come out in March, these are got to be key to it, Chair. That's why I want it dealt with separately.
Yeah. So
rather than at the end.
can I just make sure I've understood what you've said, which is that although this will be the idea of this is to be added to the covering letter that goes with the 145 or whatever we decide proposal tonight, we would like to take a separate vote on this to make sure that we have a Northern Devon identity really uppermost in our covering letter. Yeah. Okay, hold on a minute. Can I just call? I've got quite a few more names to speak on the list. So can I have Councillor Jones, please?
Yeah, firstly, thank you, Chair. Just want to say I support Councillor Prowse's motion as a separate letter. I think it's really important, the points that are there. And I want to just take us back to the beginning, because we started in this room, it wasn't that long ago, was it a year ago, 18 months ago? And a lot of us stood here and spoke about the importance of North Devon. And we listen now, and it feels like we're talking about Devon, but let's remember we were elected in North Devon. And I think what we have right now is actually really good. And I'm kind of in denial, because I think we have a fantastic council. We have incredible leadership and incredible officers, and we have incredible councillors. And I think that we do a fantastic, amazing job. I think fundamentally, I accept this is going to happen to us, but I don't want it to happen to us. I don't think this should be happening to us. It's being forced upon us. And I tried, and we've had discussions, and I failed. And I want to issue an apology to my community, because I don't think we are representing North Devon as we stand here today. And I just want to ask some questions. So, do I think this will improve our services? No, I really don't. Do I think that this will save money for council taxpayers? No, I don't think it will. Do I think it will protect our rural and coastal economy? No, I don't think it will. Do I think it will give our community stronger councillor representation? We have less councillors, pretty sure the answer to that is no. Do I think that this will be better than what we have now? And do I think that this really honestly has the backing of our community of North Devon? No, it doesn't. And I say honestly, how can anyone support this? I can't support it. Can you really honestly support this for North Devon?
Thank you. Councillor Tots.
Sorry, yeah, I'm not interested in grandstanding or whining about things that are outside our control. But just wondered with Malcolm's amendment, I think Councillor Prowse, I think everyone supports the principles of it.
He is whining.
Already-
I think that's not whining. I think you're calling me whining.
Interrupting other people.
Yeah, sorry, so everyone support, I think it seems supports those sort of principles. We've already had Councillor Crabb suggest another addition to it. We've got the Chief Executive in the motion being given delegated powers to amend wording of a letter. I just wondered whether Councillor Crouch, you'd be happy to sort of move that amendment or addition as rather than your exact wording, not to denigrate your ability as a wordsmith, but sort of words to the effect of these principles included, including potentially others that officers might have when looking at putting this letter together.
Joe, I think it should stand. I did send a draft to Ken late this afternoon, just to say, am I completely off the, tell me if I'm mad, and he didn't seem to sound. I mean, I haven't read it again, but I mean, I don't mind it being tinkered with, but I think the principles, like I mentioned some of the documents that are really crucial to the future North Devon, like the local plan, the economic strategy. That place story, what a fantastic bit of work. I mean, I really enjoyed reading that because it wasn't done by accountants, I suppose. Sorry, John. It really told a story. And I think telling a story is the sorts of things that eventually might get ministers, interested in. They'll be interested in Exeter. Don't you worry about it. That identity of Exeter. They've got that brand with the rugby club, the university, the city, its culture. They'll have the ear of government. So that's the sort of argument I want, is to say, let's have the Northern Devon argument up front, whatever happens next March.
Councillor Clayton.
Yeah, I've got no problem with the amendments to form the substantial motion. It would have been more beneficial, Councillor Prowse, if you'd also copied me into that, and I could have said it to all council members. As you know, we met 3 weeks ago, and you were going to meet with your group and come up with a form of words that we could have worked alongside. I emailed you on Sunday to ask if you'd come up with that one. It would have been useful to have. That's all I'm saying. I'm happy with what you said. If you could say it again, because I did take in everything. The main part sounded fine to go as an amendment. So I'm happy with that to make that amendment. But it will need you to reread it, I'm afraid.
Councillor Coombs.
Yeah, can we just have some clarification, because we're talking about this letter, but if 451 isn't voted forward tonight by this council, then my thought was that we wouldn't be able to put anything forward, so therefore this letter wouldn't exist.
It's got to be part of a substantial motion.
Councillor Lever. Sorry, Caroline. Councillor Caroline Lever.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to wait. Sorry, forgive me, Chair. I'd be happy to wait because actually I was going to talk about the main proposal as opposed to this amendment. So I'd be happy to wait until we've dealt with the amendment.
Yeah,
if that's okay.
Councillor Melton.
I'm not quite sure whether mine might have been in the same category, actually. My concern, and I've had concerns about the varying models, because the more I look at the models, the more they smack of compromise, not collaboration. And that becomes evident in the dissension, actually, that's creeping in with the varying councils around and the different approaches they're taking. It's changed substantively from what we talked about to begin with. So it's evident there's not going to be a single given submission that government are going to pick up and say, great, everybody agrees with that. That looks wonderful. So to my mind, we've got to consider actually where we end up with this. And that's why I feel that it's probably really important that this covering letter has to be in such a format that it actually supports us as we go forward, because it's pretty well inevitable that we're not going to get a 451 model or a 451 plus model, as we suggest. Government will look at the proposals and they will determine, and it will probably be different from what we think it might be. but the covering letter to ensure the identity of North Devon is maintained with whatever structure it comes up with is vitally important to me, because otherwise we become part of a considerably larger authority and we become quite a minor part. So I will definitely support that amendment.
Thank you. So if there's nobody else who wants to speak on the amendment, could I ask Councillor Prowse if you could read your additions to the letter again, please?
Yeah. Really is difficult here without a table, isn't it? Sort of like. Right, here we go. This council urges government to adopt a unitary model for local government in Devon that continues to promote the unique identity, culture and community of Northern Devon. In discussions and negotiation of the final form of unitary local government, North Devon Council will seek guarantees that promote the continued distinctiveness of our region. In particular, recognising the separate Northern Devon economy by an early commitment to endorsing and promoting the North Devon and Torridge economic strategy underpinned by the 5 core clusters identified. Secondly, taking forward a local plan for Northern Devon that focuses on the strong sense of belonging, highlights the central role of the biosphere and the importance of the Barnsley-Bideford corridor to providing future growth, and ensures the continuing provision of the current broad range of retail and cultural opportunities in Northern Devon. An endorsement of a place story for Northern Devon that symbolises what makes North Devon special with its own economy, housing market and housing needs. Supporting an emphasis on the importance of the sub-regional role of Greater Barnstable, which currently offers a wide range of professional careers and encourages higher skills training to combat the exodus of the young. And a commitment to keep decision-making close to people through the implementation and of an area neighbourhood structure that is meaningful and not merely consultative. Securing a continued substantive presence in Barnstable for the delivery of services to the public and local members, seeking the maximum number of elected councillors to replace the existing 50 in North Devon with wards that represent real communities.
Thank you, Councillor Prowse. So we've had a proposer and a seconder for the amendment. Does this vote?
Sorry, can I clarify, Malcolm, you said you're happy for that wording to be tinkered with. Is that what's being voted on? That it might be added to or changed?
At this stage, I wouldn't have any proposals to tinker with it. If that's the wording that comes forward.
Councillor Crabbe suggested.
Add something in. It's all the way through. Yeah.
Councillor Crabbe, did you suggest any changes? Sorry, I just wanted to clarify.
All right again, isn't it? Right, so the meaningful local. Read the local bit again, Morgan, sorry. Meaningful local.
That is meaningful and not merely consultative. On the who. The commitment to keep decision-making close to people through the implementation of an area neighbourhood structure that is meaningful and not merely consultative. Because I think.
Can we get as close as possible somewhere in there?
Keep decision-making close to people.
That was meaningful.
Meaningful to the community.
Financial.
Councillor Hayward,
What I really mean by meaningful, Chair, is we don't want consultative committees and meet in each district area afterwards. What we want is decision-making being made within our community, and I think that.
Councillor Howard Booth has a suggestion for how to word it.
As Ken said before, this is the concern that Councillor Crabbe is in the document. It stresses hyperlocalism, so it's all there already.
The point that Malcolm's making is that the document might disappear. This shouldn't.
Yeah. So do we need to take a recorded vote on this?
Yeah.
Councillor Jones clarified. I mean, we've now got the original motion and we've got the amendment. Was it pretty good vote on both of those?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Can we take the votes accordingly?
I think we need clarification.
For the amendment.
I passed the amendment will be called subsequent.
Right, okay. So what we're going to vote for now is the amendment suggested by proposed by councillor Prowse.
We've got one councillor who's just gone to get another councillor who's just gone to refresh.
Okay, so we just, right, so I'll go through what we're voting for, and hopefully they'll be back by then. So we are voting for the amendment to the letter proposed by councillor Prowse, and I've forgotten who seconded it. Councillor Petrino seconded it, which will bring into the covering letter document, which will not disappear if the 145 is not taken up by government. To make sure that we've made our feelings on keeping governance local as up to the forefront of what we are agreeing to. Yeah. So, is everybody in here now, or?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so if we can take a recorded vote, please, Beth.
So you will find it's so hot here. Please. Oh. Is it a 5 minutes break, please? It's so hot. Can we do that after the vote?
Vote, please.
We're nearly there, sorry. Hold on.
Councillor Bell,
Four.
councillor Bishop,
Four.
councillor Bullard, 4, councillor Bushell,
4.
councillor Khan,
4,
councillor Clayton,
4.
councillor Coombs, 4, councillor Crabb,
4.
councillor Dawson,
4.
councillor Davies,
4.
councillor Hayworth Booth,
4.
councillor Hunt, 4, councillor Jones,
4.
councillor Youssef,
4.
councillor David Knight,
4.
councillor Ricky Knight,
4.
councillor Lane,
4.
councillor Caroline Lever, 4, councillor Peter Lever,
4.
councillor Leatherby,
4.
councillor Maddox,
4.
councillor Maskell, 4, councillor Milton,
4.
councillor Norman,
4.
councillor Petrinos,
4.
councillor Prowse,
4.
councillor Quinn,
4.
councillor Rutty,
4.
councillor Spear, 4, councillor Tops,
4.
councillor Turton,
4.
councillor Walker, councillor Whitehead,
4.
councillor Wilkinson, 4, councillor Williams, 4, councillor Wilson, 4, councillor Warden,
4.
and councillor York, 4.
Thank you.
So that comes.
So that becomes, so that now the substantive motion becomes the, as written in recommendation, in number 2 of item 6 under the recommendations, with the addition of councillor Prowse's amendments to the covering letter to make sure that we fully and strongly recommend that, well, we insist that North Devon is given priority in.
Voting on the substantial motion now, against Chair, and that would cover 2.1.
Yeah.
2.2, 2.3, 2.31, 2.32, plus.
Yeah, could I make a motion for a 5-minute comfort break?
We're moving on to the vote now. It's just a final vote. We have 2 minutes.
Yeah, that'll do for me.
I have a substantive motion to consider, which is recommendation 2 of item 6, recommendations 2.1 to 2.232, plus the amendment that it was proposed and voted on to include the Northern Devon aspect. Okay, so I have Councillor Caroline Lever.
Thank you, Chair. And actually, I want to start by thanking councillor Prowse for adding in that northern perspective, because, you know, not only are we all here to represent and to do the best for our own communities, but I think that we all share a fairly strong feeling about the north of the county. And certainly when I filled out the county's consultation on, I'm not sure if it was on this or indeed their strategic objectives, so that's a different matter. I was very keen to point out that actually there is a distinctive culture up here and one that we should be proud of. So thank you, Malcolm, for that. So I just have to sort of think about, some of the comments that have been made about, not being all that keen on this happening. Whatever we think of, local government reorganisation and devolution, it is happening. There is absolutely no doubt. There may have been chit chat at the CCM conference that there's going to be a delay. That's not what I'm hearing through the LGA. Ministers are going ahead and it's going through the Commons at the moment. So my thought about it is, how do we do the best that we can possibly do for the people in our area? So, we've had two-tier local government, principal government, levels of local government since the Local Government Act in 1972. We have not had districts and counties for the entirety of the history of Britain. But what we have had is people who are committed to their local areas. I see no change in that, whatever model goes forward and whatever government chooses, because it's not our decision, it's not my decision, it's not your decision, it's no one in Devon's decision. It will be the minister up in London that makes that decision. And I agree with Councillor Prowse again that actually the place story is a really important part of the overall picture of this is a very special place. So, if I think about where we are now, we're in a position where we have to respond to the white paper that came out in December last year, just before Christmas. I'm sure some people had Christmas, but many people working on it didn't. And there are very clear criteria that have been set out by the government. And going through the submission or the model that we have in front of us today, what we're clear is that there has been a really fairly forensic assessment of the different models that have come forward against those criteria. And let's be under absolutely no illusions that there are that those criteria are not important. They absolutely are important, because if government is making decisions that are not in line with those criteria, I tell you, up and down the country, there will be councils taking forward judicial reviews all over the place if it means that what they have put forward and they want to put forward isn't, they've had to sort of fit themselves into those criteria against their wills. I know at least of 4 cities who would be doing that if, for example, the Torbay on its own option were allowed to go ahead. So actually those criteria really do matter. And then I think about, well, okay, how are we going to go forward in the future? Well, where we want to go to is, people have mentioned children and adult social care. Now, if we look at around the country where authorities have outstanding Ofsted children's services and the highest ratings from the CQC for adult social care, there is no correlation with size of authority. A big does not necessarily mean good. Small does not necessarily mean good. Well run is actually what makes good services. There is nothing to suggest that actually, if we have a unitary authority as set out in the 145 model, that we cannot actually really take the service that we have now, which, let's face it, for children's services, how long have they been in the lowest rating? Years. Why would we want to continue doing that? Why would we not want to actually grasp children's services, look around the country and say, where is doing this stuff really well? Who can we learn from? How can we serve the children and vulnerable adults in our communities better? Why would we not take that opportunity? Do not get the idea that carrying on doing something which isn't very good is the best that we can do. We can do better than that. Absolutely. And we should do better than that. And we should be proud to take the opportunity to do that. Yes. Because I look on this as, we could be really negative about it, but why be negative about something which is going to happen? Why not just grasp it and say, what is the best that we can get out of this for our local communities, for our people? One thing we can do is we can think about decision making, and Councillor Prowse very sensibly has raised the issue of the next level down, the neighbourhood level, whatever the particular term is that one wants to use. Well, it seems to me that, I find myself agreeing with Councillor Prowse on quite a lot this evening, which is an absolute pleasure.
Might not go on.
Well, maybe not. I like to acknowledge where I agree. So, you know, the idea that a neighbourhood level thing is just consultative to me is mad. I do not get that. There must be pooled and devolved budget. There must be decision making that is local, because we know our areas best. And actually other organisations know our areas best as well. Health, business, voluntary sector, you know, all those other interests as well. We should be coming together and we should be doing that on a local basis. I don't think we should be prescriptive about it. And I think that it's so hot in here. So I think that there are some opportunities that we can take as moving into unitaries, which we will. And I'm now in agreement with Councillor Cation. God, it's all loving today, isn't it? So actually unitaries, as being Twin Hatter, people talk about the council. Well, in one bit of my county council patch, I am both. In the other bits, I'm not. Thankfully, I work very well with the district councillors in the areas that I'm not. But when people talk about the council, it's absolutely right. We've all heard it, the council. We will have a councillor, or maybe two councillors for an area. Who knows what will come out of it? But we'll be able to represent our areas. Now, I would say that we want as many councillors as we possibly can to represent people in this area. If we go for 145, then actually the numbers that we've seen up there, the ratios, the number of population that we, the individual council, I'm saying this like all of us councillors, some or all of us may or may not be, but the number of council, the number of people that each councillor will have to look after in their patch will be considerably lower than if there is just a single Giant Devon. I don't understand why anybody would go with that, because we want to be more local. I want as many councillors as we can. So we've got that. There are currently 481 councillors. Going with 145, it's down to 234. In comparison with the Giant Devon option, which is 107. 107 down from 481. My God on earth. Anyway, so there's that. So I would urge this one. I think, but I go back to the strategic stuff, and I think about, again, how do we represent our area the best? Well, if we look at the next level up, because we've not talked about that all that much, there is the strategic authority that we hope will be a mayoral strategic authority at some point, because that brings with it considerably more money than not having a mayor. And I'm not going to get into arguments about the area that will cover, because again, that's not in our gift. But what we've got now is a combined county authority. We've got Devon County, 840,000 people, having exactly the same amount of voting power as Torbay, 150,000. Is that fair? No, that is not fair. Do any of us get a say on this? No, we don't. Do the district councils get a vote on it? No, we don't. So what we need to be able to think about is when we move into the strategic authority area, the next level up that will deal with strategic housing, transport, you know, that sort of, in all sorts of stuff, but really strategic level, we want to have the same level of voice for this area as for the rest of the areas covered within that even larger strategic authority.
Could we not talk about strategic authority because it's not part of our debate tonight?
Well, I'm just talking about the 451 as being an element of how many councillors we've got, and it is about balance. And to be fair, it's in the report. It's about that balance. Okay. So I just want to sort of just turn up. There's also massive I could talk about, but I'll just finish with one last thing, which is that if we think about unitaries as coming, this is an opportunity for us to be really positive. I think we do better if we're positive, and actually we can look at how can we improve how can we learn from those fantastic those councils around the place that are doing fantastic things. We've got fantastic things here that others can learn from, but we also have things that we can learn from. And one of the opportunities we have is, for example, to look at how do we use our existing, like the rubbish, what do we call them, the bin lorries, that, all that lot. We could use them. I've heard examples of councils. So I think Rosa was funny. Anyway, using bin lorries to scan the roads underneath, because we will have highways, to actually check out the, you know, what the state of the roads are. There are opportunities to save money doing that. There are all sorts of ideas out there that we can take and we can use those locally. We will retain the greatest voice and the greatest balance and the greatest support that we can for our local authorities if we actually go with the 145, and indeed 145 plus makes sense to me as well. So I absolutely will be voting in support of that. Thank you.
Can I just remind councillors that we are talking about the 145 tonight? I know the strategic authority is mentioned in the report, but we're talking about the proposal as is written, and also what you had to say, Councillor Lever, was very interesting and informative, but could we try and condense what we're saying a little bit?
Sorry.
Thank you. So can I call on Councillor Tops, please?
Sorry, I just thought sort of very similarly, this is an opportunity to try and make the best of it for North Devon, and of all the options being put forward, it will appear to me that 451 plus offers the most advantages for all involved and probably the least disadvantages for all. There is compromise, of course, there's compromise. There has to be. There are 11 authorities coming together to come up with something, and thinking it could be purely collaborative is pretty idealistic. I think under the 451, the only one's not really getting some sort of version of what they seem to want is Torbay, and that just seems far too small to work at only 140,000. The 451 does seem to do the most to meet all of the criteria that are set out by MHCLG. It does also, from our point of view, to get the best of North Devon, it brings about alignment between the existing larger authority and us, DCC and NDC Council. And I just wanted to very briefly talk about it with regard to education and social care. I'm in education. I've got not inconsiderable second-hand experience in mental health and social care services, and at the moment DCC is responsible for the whole of county social care, social services. It's the local authority for education. It delivers SEN support, etc., etc. And I think this offers a really good opportunity for us in North Devon to have all that expertise that's based at County Hall and thinking about the whole of the county, to bring a bit more of a focus for it onto North Devon. And it will be similar for other areas. So Councillor Maskell mentioned earlier sort of the fear that there isn't that focus on other areas, or other some, the 4 and the 1, they have to come up with their own services, but actually they get the same thing. They'll too be overstaffed. They'll have people who are able to focus on a particular area with all their expertise. I think we just need to, personally, I would say we need to embrace it. It is the option on the table. It's what's been invested in. We agreed a month ago to invest in it and put it forward. If we don't, what are we putting forward? Nothing. Where does that leave us? We've heard there's a majority of the authorities are behind it, and it's our opportunity tonight to vote for it and put it forward as a solution that works for us.
This is my first time actually addressing you all, so well done me, I suppose. Thanks for the applause. I obviously wasn't elected when we all decided to put money into this, so I suppose I'm the only person who can say otherwise, but I won't be saying otherwise. I will be speaking in favour of the 145 proposal. As growing up in North Devon, it has been such a privilege to live here, and it's been such a privilege to actually be elected now to this council. We have to do our best to prevent One Devon, prevent the county council's 911 proposal, and we need to do the best for our people. We have an opportunity to protect our residents from One Large Devon and protect democratic representation. And we also need to be thinking about the future, not just the here and now. And in the future, in 5-10 years' time, we need to be looking at a very strong, financially stable authority rather than a smaller, weaker local authority that won't be able to put this investment into North Devon that we would all like to see. Also, another great thing about the 145 is all of the 5 would have the Exeter to Barnstaple railway line in it, and it would also have all of the North Devon Link Road in it. So we would actually then be able to invest in our strategic infrastructure assets more easily, rather than having 2 unitary authorities
battling each other, talking about one simple stretch of road rather than, you know, dividing that up between different authorities. Also, under 145, Devon becomes nicely split up in a way that I think can benefit all the residents and give residents the voice that they need in councils, because we don't have a choice, as everyone else has said, and we might as well make the best of a bad situation. I think this is the Goldilocks, just right approach to this situation.
Councillor Ratty. Councillor Spear.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. There's been quite a lot of talk tonight about neighbourhood committees and getting that closer to the community. There may be one or two members and or officers that remember that we did have area committee. We had a different strategic sort of setup in those days. And I just wanted to say to members that weren't involved and not aware of it, how well those committees worked. They even dealt with the planning in their area and involved to the area committees. And they did work very well in my view.
Thank you, Councillor Spear. And Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Chair. I will try to be brief. I've got work tomorrow. Obviously, I would like to talk about housing. With due regard to Councillor Prowse, I'm going to say some of the same things I said before. And if he's watched it all on YouTube, I don't want to bore him too much. But I'm going to talk about housing because that's what I care about mostly. Can I really also take an opportunity to thank all of the officers who are behind me for just being, and in front of for the incredible work they've done. This is breathtaking. I know it's taken a lot of work and I know it's taken a lot of time, but it is a truly remarkable document. The place setting, story setting document for Northern Devon is incredible. I mean, it needs to be there beside your copies of Lorna Doone, really. Thank you very much. Because essentially, because of the work that's been put in, I think that's why I find I will be supporting this tonight. I'm yet to hear anything otherwise. But I would like to talk about housing. Councillors were fortunate to go to the Youth Council on Saturday, address the Devon Youth Council on Saturday. We heard from a lot of incredible young people. One of the things that really came up, 3 young people, they were care leavers. They were 19 years old when they turned 18. They described a situation where their corporate parents, or parents as we should say, abandoned them. They were put out by the things, they were not given the support they needed. I spoke to Councillor Jeffries after in the break, and I said, this isn't true. This isn't the lived experience of care leavers that I'm aware of. I know that we do lots better. And Councillor Jeffrey says, no, that's the lived experience of care leavers in North Devon. And I went, oh, it is not the lived experience of care leavers in other parts of this county. We set the gold standard here in Devon, and I think we should be very, very proud of what we do here. But my point, to bring this back, of course, to the unitary authority, is that we must ensure that Devon's excellence is not lost in the shuffle. I've asked Nina, Sarah, and some of the officers for really going back on the care leavers, and because I said we do so well, I'll be taking this to the Devon Housing Task Force next week. I'm going to say, how do we work into the unitary authorities? And I said, can I have a list of all the other things that we do well? The list is embarrassingly long. It is fair to say, when it comes to housing, we do an incredible job here in North Devon. We must, in this new unitary authority, and this is why we need to move quickly here to move on to the next stage, we must ensure that what we do here in North Devon is shouted loud, is shouted clear, and is reflected when these new unitary authorities, they need to be looking to us for guidance, us for a leadership on what we take forwards. And that's why I think, yeah, I will be supporting this. I don't want to see any more delays in what goes on today. We've got to take this forwards. Yeah, this is an opportunity. As Councillor Caroline Lever said a minute ago, we can do better than what is being done at the moment. And I think this is somewhere we can do as well as we're doing. Devon can do better thanks to what we are doing now. I would just like to bring up one other area, and I will be brief. I'm speaking as quickly as I possibly can. Temporary accommodation. Currently, we have a good amount of temporary accommodation. We use it very, very, very well. And it is an asset again to North Devon. We need to ensure that we do not lose this within the unitary authorities. This is a fight we must be prepared for, and I want people to be keen. I have no disrespect for the previous county administration, but we lost the link centres this comes onto checks and balances. We did lose the link centres because, and I think this district authority said we needed the link centres in North Devon and Ilfracombe and Barnstaple and Bideford. We did need those. Taunton Parish Council, the district council worked very hard. The unitary authority will lose the checks and balances that the three tier system provides. When sometimes, if the district council chose to do something foolish, the county would be stepping in, and vice versa, as we've seen previously. I fear that with a unitary authority, we may be giving away too much of what we hold dear to a wider, larger authority, and that may be quite risky when it comes to looking after the most vulnerable members of our society. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I just wanted, sorry, I've got Councillor Crabbe. I just wanted to say something before we move on to Councillor Crabbe, which is, as everybody probably is aware, I was not in favour of the 451 when we were discussing it previously. However, looking at the work that has been done on this and the amount of political representation that will be going into the Northern Devon area of a 541 authority, I am much less worried than I was, because I believe that the people who are elected to represent the Northern Devon part of North Devon and Exeter Authority will stand up for Northern Devon. And that is what we as district councillors will have to push our new unitary councillors into doing. And I think if we can do that, we've got a good basis to start making sure that North Devon and Northern Devon are recognised, and make sure that we get the services in our area that we need. And that is the really important thing about all this, is we've got to make sure that our residents get the services, not that they deserve or want, the services that they need. And that's why I will be supporting this. Councillor Crabbe.
Voice of dissent, I'm afraid. First of all, I'll echo what's been said already. The document, or both documents tonight, actually have been brilliantly prepared, and you can genuinely see the huge amount of work that's in them. I mean, 250 pages, a report, and it doesn't write itself. So there's a lot of work gone into that. However, I came back to the same thing. If you look at county's budget, our budget is 15 million, something like that. County budget is over £1 billion, I think now. And of that billion, 75% of it goes on children's services and adult social care. 75% of the county's budget is managed, it won't be in one office, but it's effectively one office. It's one management structure that manages 75% of the budget. I might be wrong on these figures. It might be a couple of percent either way, but bear with. So if you're splitting that now into what we say, and we'll split it into 2 councils, Exeter say we'll split it into 5 councils or 4 councils or whatever. Anything like that is going to create such massive disruptions in this thing. Now, I take Councillor Lever's point about, it has been in a dark place, but I mean, we've had something to say, but I mean, those of you who were on council previously know that there have been people marched out of that building as part of what we loosely call a management restructure. So a lot of those issues that were caused in the past have been dealt with or are being dealt with, and progress is being made. Taking on something like children's services is not simple as open up an office, tell you what, we'll put a porta cabin out in the car park. It is miles more than that. The people, Will's right, Councillor Tops is right. Many of the people that are operating within that thing can 2P over. But you can't just 2P over an entire management structure, because Teambridge will want one, or 451 will want one, Exeter will want one. So it's not as easy as you think. So I wish you the very best with 145. So I think the work that's gone into it is phenomenal. And I think the outcome wouldn't necessarily be a disaster in so many ways. But I still think that the common sense way of doing it, and this is from me, there's none of our groups been whipped or anything like that, it's just purely me. I think it still makes sense to run most things at county level. And as for the democratic deficit, this is why I'm pushing, if anything is hyper-local with these management structures, with real power in these neighbourhood committees, you can have your unitary councillor, parish councillors, people from other representative community groups, all there having a voice, and that's true local democracy. Doesn't matter if you're called a councillor, or if you're called a parish councillor, as long as you're in a room voting on budget, you're a councillor. So I genuinely wish you all the very best in all the work you've done, but I won't vote against because I think the work's fantastic. But I personally will be abstaining on the core vote. But that, and those are my reasons why.
Okay, so I've got.
Chairman, could I just sort of echo what Paul said for a completely different reason? There are people here that are still unhappy about 145, but for the opposite reasons of Paul's. And most of them would prefer to see work on a full unitary option. So whether they vote against or abstain is a matter of their conscience, Chair. But I think it's worth saying that, and from my point of view, even though I disagree with the 145 as being the option going forward, I shall commit myself to the process, whatever the outcome should be, because I think the important thing is for us not to fall out tonight. We've got different views, but there's, you know, we all respect each other. You change your mind, and I respect you for saying it, Chair. But for me, I still would have preferred to have seen Exeter not in our unitary, so that we had Barnstable and the Barnstable Bideford have as the centre of an option. We haven't got it in front of us, so it's up, you know, members support it, abstain or vote against it. But after that, after tonight, we've got to get together, and next March we've got to deliver whatever the government says is the option in front of us.
Councillor Milton.
Thank you. Yeah, listening to the debate, if I was listening to it outside at the moment, you would have this distinct feeling that we were voting for the creation of a unitary authority tonight. And that's definitely not the case. We're actually voting on what we want to put forward based on a feasibility study we've actually done, and an excellent one at that. So that's very different. So what we vote on tonight may be very, very different what we end up seeing in front of us. And I think there's got to be that reality check. And I'm trying to get it around in my head, you know, am I likely to be voting for the least damaging or the most useful? I'm not quite sure. And it's still going around in my head at the moment. Really difficult to determine looking externally how I can decide what is genuinely really the best option for North Devon out of what we've got here. There feels to me there's an awful lot of politics involved, an awful lot of supposition, an awful lot of pressure, and an awful lot of it's bound to be better if we do it this way, and not necessarily the 451, actually, any others. And I really don't know whether I've got enough information to determine how I know where it'll be better. All I know is I'd like to vote to support North Devon in some way or another. Hence the value of the amendment and the value of our place story, I think, which is really important. I think we've got to make it clear that whatever happens, we can stand behind that.
Thank you. If we can now move to the vote. Oh, sorry, Councillor Peter Lehman.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to sum up and perhaps, you know, answer a few things that have been said tonight. It's been a really interesting debate, and thank you everybody for your contributions to this. I mean, it's I think when I was elected as a councillor, this wasn't a decision I thought I'd be having to make to vote on what comes after me, if you like. I think one thing that's come clear tonight is the importance of local decision making, and I, like everybody else, really welcome Councillor Prowse's amendment, and I think that whatever we decide, we definitely should be going forward with that and pushing that. And I think the advantage that the 145 has over some of the other options is that there is a sense of unity between those districts that make that area up. We share a common infrastructure in the link road and the railway line, as Councillor Rutty said. We had a presentation just last week from the principal at Petrock, which is joining with Exeter to form a coast-to-coast service. And we are part of an area that feels as though it's coast-to-coast. We would have a synergy with pardon me, with Petrock and Exeter College, and we'd have a synergy with the health service, the NHS, which works on that same sort of model in a way that we wouldn't with the other options that are going forward. But I think what Caroline said is right, always. And that there's a real benefit in having joined up services, and we've heard from Councillor Bell about that, and from Councillor Tops about the importance of actually, with the most vulnerable people in our society, working as a joined up people first service. And I think without the artificial barriers that are in the way at the moment, that is way more likely to happen. I mean, Councillor Crabb and Councillor Maskell have got a point in terms of Devon County Council is starting on an improvement journey on their children and adult services. But don't forget, there's not just one management team for children and adult services within the area that's being looked at. There's one in Torbay and there's also one in Plymouth. So there will be changes, and that's inevitably going to happen. But there is already 3 management structures in place for children and adult services. And I can see whatever happens, those will be built upon to put something there in the future. And I take what Councillor Bell says very seriously. What strikes me reading through that document and everything I hear from One Northern Devon and North Devon Futures, and accompanying the chair of the County Council on ceremonial visits around the county, is that in Northern Devon, there's some stuff we just do brilliantly. And this is a fantastic opportunity with the resources that are available through a much bigger authority to spread that message and those ways of working out and make life better for everyone who lives in Devon. And that's why I'll be voting for the 451 proposal. Thank you.
Okay, if we can now move to the vote, we have a proposal. We are having a recorded vote. Yes, that's already been voted on. So we have a proposer, we have a seconder, the amendments have been done. So if we could take the vote, please.
Councillor Bell.
For.
Councillor Bishop.
For.
Councillor Bullard. For. Councillor Bushell.
Against.
Councillor Khan. For. Councillor Clayton.
For.
Councillor Coombs. For. Councillor Crabb.
Same.
Councillor Dawson.
For.
Councillor Davies.
For.
Councillor Hayworth Booth.
Against.
Councillor Hunt. For. Councillor Jones.
Against.
Councillor Youssef.
For.
Councillor David Knight.
For.
Councillor Lane.
For.
Councillor Caroline Lever. For.
You missed me, ma'am.
Ricky Knight.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Ricky Knight.
Who's that? Against.
Thank you. Councillor Peter Lever.
For.
Councillor Leatherby.
For.
Councillor Maddox.
Against.
Councillor Maskell. Abstain. Councillor Milton.
Abstain.
Councillor Norman.
For.
Trinos.
Against.
Councillor Prowse.
Against.
Councillor Quinn.
For.
Councillor Rutty.
For.
Councillor Spear. Councillor Tops.
For.
Councillor Turton.
For.
Councillor Walker.
For.
Councillor Whitehead.
For.
Councillor Wilkinson.
For.
Councillor Williams. For. Councillor Wilson. Abstain. Councillor Warden.
For.
Councillor York. For. That's 27 for, 7 against and 4 abstain, Chair. Therefore it's carried.
Thank you very much.
Before we actually go, I did thank the officers.
Yes.
Sorry, councillors, could we just have 1 more minute, please?
Saying a week is a long time in politics, but believe me, 12 months of this has been, well, it's, I won't say it's over because the work now begins, but I'm glad this bit is over. And I did mention Ken. Ken has been fantastic for 12 months. He's helped a great deal in working with you and chief executives and trying to get more northern Labour as much as possible. So, you know, thank you to Ken and also John. As far as he's did the team with the finance officers that I mentioned, I'm not absolutely saying, I didn't mention you, Sarah J. I'm not absolutely saying how much content you had in this, but definitely Sarah and Nina have been the main stars. Correct me if I'm wrong on this.
I would say, Chair, that the impact on officers across the council has been quite significant. But they've been involved directly with the negotiations and the talks, or picking up other work, and that will continue right the way through till vesting day, I'm sure.
In that sense, we've had a decision to go for unit 2 because it's divergent, but I still maintain it's a good one overall. But thank you to those officers.
Chair, can we formally note our thanks to the officers for their work on this?
Yeah, please, we can do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody, for excellent.